Okay, in this video, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the reciprocal functions, or at least some reciprocal functions, to get an idea of how to do these out. Okay, so let's take a look at the cosecant of, let's go 210 degrees. Okay, so if we're looking at 210 degrees, we know that that is going to be rooming all the way over here. And there we go. Okay, and so for our reference angle is going to go ahead and be this guy right here. Okay, so the reference angle is going to be 30 degrees. So we rewrite this as the cosecant of 30 degrees. So now what we got to go ahead and do is that we think about, okay, well, cosecant is the reciprocal function of sine, okay? And we know that the sine of 30 degrees is going to be 1/2. So what we're going to do is that, and I'm just going to write this off to the side because I don't want to smash the room here. So I got this guy, and I know that the sine of 30 degrees is 1/2, and so the reciprocal is going to be 2. We also got to keep in mind that this is in tangent territory, so that means is that it has to go ahead and be negative because only tangent and cotangent are going to be positive in the third quadrant. So we say that that is going to be a -2. Okay, let's look at another one that has to do with radians. Okay, so here we got the cotangent of a -π/6. So a -π/6 is going to be going in this direction here, okay? And remember that π/6 is equivalent to 30 degrees. So it looks like that we are going to go ahead and have, this is going to be the actual reference angle, π/6, okay? So we can just rewrite this as the cotangent of π/6. All right, so loading things up on the right-hand side here, we have the tangent of π/6. We want to figure that out first because that is, and take the reciprocal of it because that's going to give us what cotangent is. And so I have tangent of π/6 is going to give me √3/3. So when I take the reciprocal of that, that is going to give me 3 divided by the square root of 3. And then I multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3, and that is going to give me 3 square root of 3/3, and now the 3's cancel out. And so at the end of the day, I have the square root of 3 for cotangent. Now, notice that it is in, to finish up the answer, because we have to go ahead and put a plus or minus sign, it is in cosineville, and that means is that cosine and secant are the only positive trigonometric ratios in the fourth quadrant there, and so we're going to get a negative square root of 3, okay? So, let's take a look at some of the angles that fall on the x and y axis. So let me cue those up real quick. Okay, so if I were to go ahead and have the cosine of a -90, this means is that I'm going to have this fall on the y-axis here, the negative y-axis, and so it doesn't make a reference angle that's going to have to make a triangle like we saw before. So what I want to do is that I want to, I'm going to sketch a circle off to the side real quick. Okay, and so this is where we have to remember all the definitions of the sine, cosine, and tangent as we go ahead and relate to the x's and y's of all those parentheses. And so when we're looking at this, we have these coordinates that are going to match things up. Okay, and so if I were to look at cosine, which from this picture down below, I'm going to put it up here so we can see it a little bit better, is that we notice that the cosine then of 90 or negative 90 degrees is going to put us on the y-axis, and that's going to be the x value. And so we can basically skip right to the chase with that and just say that the solution is going to be 0, okay? And likewise, if I have the secant, which is going to be the reciprocal of cosine, I would go like this on over here. And I notice that if I wanted secant of a angle, that's going to be 1 over x, okay? So I go ahead and I go 1 divided by a negative 1, which is just going to give me a negative 1 here, okay? Because the x value that it's pointing to is going to be a negative 1. So anytime that they go right to an x or y axis, and the terminal side of the angle falls on it, then you know that you can just go ahead and use the x and y value, and that's the easiest way to knock those things out. Okay, so I'm going to include some more examples of this on the website as well, and I'm including a assignment that looks like there's quite a bit to do with it, lots of practice with this stuff, and so it might be a little bit difficult at first, but hang in there, and I promise you'll get the hang of it. So I will see you then.